Fox News alert now, a startling spike in new cases of the coronavirus as the number of deaths skyrockets. More than 15,000 new cases reported yesterday alone, bringing the total to 60,000 worldwide. Meanwhile, there have been more than 1,300 deaths total. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith.
I'm Ed Henry. Good to be back home.
Morning,
Good to be with you. The latest update sparking alarm all around the world. Health officials struggling to keep up. A 14th case now confirmed here in the U.S. The patient among the hundreds evacuated from China. Meanwhile, an American couple is now describing what it's like being quarantined on the Diamond Princess cruise ship off the coast of Japan for a week now.
Paul and I just got tested for the coronavirus in our cabin on the Diamond Princess.
Well, we're definitely concerned, definitely.
The workers have a mask and gloves on when they pass us the meal, and then we try to wash our hands before we eat it, just to eliminate any kind of germs that we can possibly.
Benjamin Hall is tracking all of this live from London this morning. Hey, Benjamin.
Good morning, Sandra. And you know, the last few days there had been some optimism that perhaps the number of new cases was cooling off. The situation was getting better. We saw about 2,000 new cases for the last few days. And then this dramatic increase over the last 24 hours, 15,000 new cases, taking the worldwide total to 60,000 and 1,500 new deaths. Now, China says this big number is a result of their new methodology that it's using to diagnose new cases. Doctors in China are now permitted to diagnose on the spot rather than having to wait for lab results. But the fear is many people remain undiagnosed in China. They haven't started to show symptoms yet, but they are still spreading the disease. Now, as a result, China are ramping up their own response, sending 2,500 military medical personnel to Wuhan to assist the 4,000 already there. They've also fired at least 2 high-level officials in response to growing public anger against the government and its response. Meanwhile, off the coast of Japan, on the Diamond Princess cruise ship, which we saw earlier, another 39 people have tested positive. That brings the total to 218. There are around 3,700 people on board. They are all quarantined, and among them, 400 U.S. citizens, 11 of whom are known to have been infected. In the U.S., State Department employees and family members who were evacuated from Wuhan on an earlier flight have finally been released from quarantine at a California military base. After all, 195 received a clean bill of health. However, another American who was evacuated on a later flight has now become the 14th U.S. citizen infected. And just now we are hearing that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, has said it is preparing for the disease, for the coronavirus to take a foothold in the U.S. And it is likely, they say, that it will spread. Sandra?
And we are getting word of a news conference out of San Antonio from the CDC at 11 a.m. Eastern time today. So we'll have that for everybody a couple hours from now. Benjamin Hall, thank you.
Someone is healthy and not having a temperature or exhibiting symptoms, they are not at risk for transmitting that virus to their loved ones.
The CDC giving an update on the coronavirus here in the United States, which now has 15 confirmed cases. The latest patient is among a group of people who returned from China and are being held in quarantine in Texas today. Several U.S. senators, though, calling on the federal government to appoint a senior global health security expert. Joining me now, Florida Senator Rick Scott. Senator Scott, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Well, you know, I'm concerned about China. They've never been transparent. They've never been honest about these things. And the numbers keep changing there. So my first concern is what's going on with China. I called on the president to declare a national emergency and really look about restrict who's coming in to the country. He did the right thing there. But I think we also need to look at all the products that are coming in. I got a briefing yesterday. The FDA has pulled back, and other federal agencies, their inspectors in China. So what's not getting inspected? So I want to make sure we know exactly what's getting inspected. And I've asked the WHO to go into China and let's get the real facts here so we know exactly what's going on, what the mortality rate is, all these things.
You have been the main senator, the main voice in D.C. actually raising these concerns. And I immediately thought about you last night when the news broke that there's a new process, new methodologies being applied, hence the massive spike in confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Does that kind of give you more of a feeling that, yes, there's more to this, that, and the fact that they still haven't allowed the Americans to come in there and help out?
Well, I mean, yeah, they don't allow Americans in. They're not transparent enough. So, I mean, if they need to be transparent. I mean, this is. I hope this does not spread, and that's what we all hope. And my heart goes out to everybody impacted in China and the other places it's impacted. I hope it doesn't spread, but be transparent. I mean, on top of that, I mean, look at what they're doing. They don't let Taiwan in the WHO. This is not a political fight. This is a fight about how do we keep people all over the world safe. So China is, as we know, they're not transparent. They're not direct. The information coming out is sketchy. So I'm very concerned.
Well, the WHO, which, by the way, we pay 24% of the budget, by far more than any other country, seems to have been really trying not to upset China with this whole thing from that first major press conference. And many are wondering if they're being sincere enough to keep the rest of the world safe here.
Well, step one is the WHO should hold everybody accountable. I mean, just something as simple as letting Taiwan be a member. This is not a political issue. This is about world health. The World Health Organization should not be controlled by China. China should remember, communist China should not be telling people who can be a member, and that's what they've been doing. Right. So I'm concerned about China. I'm concerned about what the WHO is. I've been getting briefs by the CDC, NIH. I know they're doing their best to try to get information out to us.
The firewall, one of the things I've called for, you talk about the burden of proof, and they have not taken the CDC, they have not taken, they've not let our best guys go over there. Dr. Gabriel Leung from Hong Kong University has not been able to go in. Should we make it a point of policy now that they've got to take virus hunters from around the world, and they've got to take down the firewall so you have free communication between the Chinese people and the West?
Yeah, so it's important that when we say international scientists, we're not talking about Iranian scientists or Russian scientists. We're talking about American scientists who are the best in the world, and Japanese or Korean or European or what have you. And that they open up and provide us the information that is necessary to find effective diagnostic testing techniques and a vaccine. So, for instance, we know that this vaccine did not start at a food market in Wuhan. That is now been totally debunked by Chinese epidemiologists. Of the first 40 cases, 14 of them had no contact with that food market. So you might say the virus went into that market before it came out of that market. So one thing that the Chinese Communist Party needs to open up about is what that kind of research they were doing in the Wuhan super lab. It's only a few miles away from that food market. We know they were researching coronaviruses. Perhaps it was all good, productive science, trying to find diagnoses, trying to find vaccines. But the burden of proof is on the Chinese Communist Party because they have been so dishonest, because they mislead their own people, because they use techniques like their great internet firewall to try to clamp down on information. The way to combat an epidemic is not through secrecy. It's not through trying to dismiss the facts. It's through trying to get the facts as quickly as possible and being honest about what you don't know with the people.
Listen, the president, everybody knows the president really respects your opinion, particularly the fact that you volunteered for your country and went over and fought in combat in Iraq, and you were awarded the Bronze Star. What would you recommend how do we press the case here? Given the fact that, look, it's spreading throughout the world, but the center of this is Wuhan. There's something happening in Wuhan that's never happened before in human history. There is this quarantine and the lockdown throughout China, not just central China, but all China now is, 100 million people in quarantine, 200 or 300 million people at least in lockdown. This is on a scale that's never been done before. They're doing mass roll-ups a day of people not following the quarantine. What would you recommend to the president and other governments of the West for the good of the Chinese people and the citizens of the world? What would you recommend, steps that we have to take to get for the world to get their arms around this?
So first, Steve, I think it's important for everyone to remember that the problem here is not with the Chinese people. It is with the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese people are the first and the worst victims of the communists that govern them. So not only for our own good, but for the good of the Chinese people and the good of everyone in the world, China needs to be more transparent. They need to open Wuhan and all of Hubei province up to outside international scientists of international renown to conduct the kind of immediate research necessary. We also need to put our national laboratories at the NIH and CDC in conjunction with private laboratories on a footing unlike anything seen since the Manhattan Project to not only identify but mass produce a vaccine as quickly as possible.
有一个战友说，当咱们爆料革命爆出海外社交媒体上武汉空中火葬场造成的二氧化硫超过1700的时候，说领导打电话迅速解决，来了生化部队呀，把整个火葬场的所有炉子重新清理，并且进行了所谓的二氧化硫的设施，而且现在是把过去的火烧现在已经改变了改变了处理尸体的方式，就是气化，完全跟希特勒的招都用上了，身体进去不需要50分钟，啪就没了，减少二氧化硫，而且是硬命令。听说是孙春兰、韩正明确规定，说必须在24小时彻底解决武汉上空、重庆上空和接下来上海、安徽上空的二氧化硫的问题。北京的所有火葬场全部在改造，所以共产党给你什么？口罩没有，医药没有，专家没有，教授没有，什么有？枪，中央电视台，火葬场，烧了你保证没有二氧化硫，这就是共产党。你还相信党呢？党能给你治病，党能灭疫，党能灭疫，今天就不会看到尸横遍野。现在在上海，在安徽，已经所有地方现在有了对网络控制的叫3不允许，不允许任何人讨论和传播病人的情况，不允许把疫情和疫情的有关信息送到海外，3不允许，绝不允许让海外的任何媒体获得疫区的任何信息。这3不允许就基本上把这些人都灭了。共产党下定决心，就是以黑治国，以骗治国，以假治国，彻底消灭这些次等人民。大家还没清楚呢，你在家待1星期，待2星期，你告诉我3星期，疫情是不是就没了？是不是共产党就给你有解药了？是不是你家粮食就给免费了？你的房贷车贷就可以不付了？次生灾难，我在2-3周前就说过，是超出你想象的。任何一套瘟疫战争之后的次生灾难，远远伤害高于灾难的本身。共产党难道不懂吗？整个全国现在已经是全部是隔离状态，连北京、上海、天津都是隔离状态。共产党根本没能力来制止和杜绝人传人和再次的2次、100次、多次传染，他又没有解药，又没有生产所有药的能力，却把年轻的孩子送上了前线。为什么你们把年轻人送前线的同时，在纽约、在海外的伦敦，无数个官二代、富二代开着上百万、千万的车在挺武汉，这些人为啥不回武汉去挺去？亲爱的国内同胞们，你们上网看看，有多少海外的官二代、富二代开着豪车在支持你们，你们是戴着只能用2次、3次的口罩，却去面对死亡，多么的可怜、可悲、滑稽呀！